Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bridget Morris, and I talk about things that is specific carbohydrate diet friendly, and we also include in there keto and gluten-free. So in today's video, we're going to be doing a bone broth soup. This is something that is definitely a staple in my diet, and I recommend it being in everybody's diet. You don't have to have IBD or IBS in order to just consume this. I remember when I was a kid, when I was sick, this was the one thing that my mom would always do. When you're sick, maybe you're nauseous, you can't really keep things down, maybe you're not really eating because you're not feeling well, you're sleeping a lot. This is something that is just so easy to digest, but it's so full of nutrients, so full of vitamins, exactly what the body needs to nourish it. When you have IBD and IBS, the problem that we have is a lot of inflammation. The inflammation is what's prohibiting the body to absorb the essential nutrients and vitamins that we need in order to feel better, or just, if you're younger, grow the bones, or, have healthy hair, healthy skin, and all that stuff. And so by consuming something that is so easy to digest, your body absorbs it right away, and I feel the immediate effect. It really helps in lowering the inflammation, just because the intestine and the body doesn't have to work in order to get those basic forms of nutrients. So this is something that is actually really easy to do. You can use items from the house. You don't necessarily have to go and buy certain things to make it. I'm going to show you different variations of how I do my bone broth. You can use chicken, you can use turkey, you can use beef, you can use pork. It really doesn't matter. Maybe what you can do to vary it up is one week you use a certain kind of bone, another week you use another type of bone. It changes the flavor, and again, it adds variety into your diet. Something that I like to do as well is kind of recycle the items in my house. So not recycle, but I try not to be wasteful. So example, when I'll be cooking cauliflower or maybe broccoli, and I'll be cutting out the head part of it, so I'm stuck with the stem. Instead of throwing it out, what I do is I put it in a Ziploc bag and I put it in the freezer, and I just do that until the Ziploc bag is full. And so what I do with it is, when I do a bone broth, I take those elements out and then I put it into the liquid. Bone broth is something that is just so flavorful. You can use it as a soup, which is what I normally do. What you're doing is, when you're boiling the bones, you're taking the nutrients out of the marrow of the bone, and that is just so nutritious for the body. When you're taking that out and you're having it in the liquid, it's supposed to be very gelatinous when it's cold. So when you end up taking the soup out of the fridge, it's going to be all like jello. It's going to look like jello, and the more jello-like consistency it is, the healthier, or the better it is for your body. If you have something that is very, very liquidy, it just means that there isn't as much marrow in there, but you know what? It's still really good, and it's still really healthy. And I say definitely a benefit for people that are trying to reduce the inflammation. So like I said, I use this as soup, but you can definitely use it for a base for gravy, or maybe sauces. Like example, what I do sometimes is, if I'm ever sauteing some vegetables in the pan, like maybe Brussels sprouts, and I want to add flavor without using maybe spices or just instead of water, which has no taste to it, I'm going to use some of that. So if you want to learn how to make some bone broth, that's Specific Carbohydrate Diet, please keep watching. So in today's video, I'm going to be using 3 onions, because 2 of them are really small, 4 carrots cut in 2 to 3 pieces, some garlic cloves. These are the frozen stems that I was talking to you about. So this is a full bag of cauliflower, and then I have 1 stem of broccoli, 2 frozen carcasses of chicken, and then I'm also going to be using pork neck bones. I actually got these at my local grocery store, but you can go to your local butcher and ask the butcher for similar things. You can always ask for cow bones as well. The reason we want to be using this is you want to be drawing out the minerals from the bone marrow. So you can see in the center part, that's the marrow, and that's where all of the good stuff is from. So just different size pieces. You can see that these bones still have some meat on it, which is great. So once everything will be done cooking, I'm going to be actually removing those cooked pieces of meat and throwing it back in the broth. Hey guys, hope you're ready to cook with me today. So you're going to be needing a really big pot for this. First thing I want to do is place the carcasses and the bones into the pot just because they're the bigger items, and the smaller items tend to be easier to place in the little holes that I find. So I'm kind of going to play Tetris and try to fit as much as I can into this pot. So when you turn the heat on, you do want to put some water at the bottom, because if not, it's going to be burning your bones and your vegetables. You also want to be adding an acidic agent to your broth, like lemon juice, or like I'm using today, apple cider vinegar, just because it's going to break down the collagen and there's going to be more of it into your broth. And it also helps to draw out the minerals from the marrow. So once you have all of your items into the pot, you want to cover them all up with the water. And now I'm adding salt and pepper for seasoning. So at this point, before it's going to start simmering, I like to take a wooden spoon and just move everything around, making sure that all the items are covered under the water, because that's really how the minerals and vitamins are going to be drawn out. So you'll bring it to a boil and then you let it simmer for about an hour. That's when I like to look at it. And again, I take the wooden spoon and I move everything around in case there's anything that's sticking out of the water. I like to just push it back in, move everything around. I personally like to let it simmer for a total of about 3 to 4 hours. I think that does the job for me. All right, so it's been about 4 hours. You can see how the water reduced, which is good. So it's going to be more concentrated. So I'm going to turn off the heat. Now from here, I'm going to be draining it. So I like to go to the sink, I grab another big pot, I grab this strainer, and from here, I'm going to be pouring the entire content of my bone broth just to strain out the liquids. So from here, I'm going to be separating what I want to keep and what I want to throw out. So I have a Ziploc bag here where I'm going to put everything that I want to discard. The reason I have a plastic bag is just so it's less sloppy and it makes it easier to discard. So from here, with a pair of tongs, because it is quite warm, you can let the items cool for maybe like 15 minutes, but I'm going to be peeling off the cooked meat from the bones, and then from there, the bones I'm just going to be discarding. So I'm going to be doing this for the entire carcasses. The smaller pieces of chicken, I'm really not too fussy, you know, I'll just take out the bigger chunks of meat, but then I'll throw out everything. I will be keeping the carrots though, just because I feel as though they still stay in good shape, and I just cut them up in smaller pieces, and I'm going to end up throwing it back into the broth so it becomes more of a soup, because you have the meat chunks and you have the carrot chunks as well. So I get the majority of my bones from leftover barbecue chickens that I get at Costco or even the grocery store, or even, you know, like leftover bones from turkeys from Christmas or Thanksgiving. I put them in a Ziploc bag and I put them in the freezer until I'm ready to use them. Alright, so from here, this is the bone broth that I have. So I'm going to pour it into a smaller container that's going to be easier for me to put in my refrigerator. So you can see all the meat and carrot chunks that I will be putting into the broth to make it more of a soup. So this is what it looks like in the container. still warm, so we're going to put it in the refrigerator overnight just so it can get hard. So this is what the bone broth looks the next day. You can see that it's hard, and that top layer is actually fat that I'm going to be removing. So you can see under, that's the gelatin-like, jello-like bone broth that you want. See how jello-y it is. So now I've removed the layer of fat. So now this is your bone broth, and this is liquid gold. When you're ready to eat it, you can just put it in a bowl, heat it up, either microwave or on the stove top, and that's it. And there you have it, guys. That is how you make some bone broth. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you thought it was easy to do. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to leave in the comments below your thoughts or any ideas or suggestions or variations to today's video and what I did, I would always like to hear it, because maybe I'd like to try it myself. So thank you so much for staying with me today during this video. I will see you in my next video. Thank you. Bye.